My neighbor across the street from me is older black guy, man. He's his garage is Cowboys all over the place. I give him hell every Sunday. When they lose,
You're getting ready to lose a lot.
Mr. Dwight, what's up, man?
They're going to lose a lot. I got a feeling.
Romo is probably going to be out.
Yeah.
He should just retire.
Yeah. That's unfortunate too, man. That's
Sure is.
crazy.
He just stays hurt.
He does.
And that right there is just like, you have no control of that. You doing what you're supposed to do, and it just comes from
It was a
behind.
freak way he fell.
Yes.
He got landed on.
Yeah, he half-ass slid though. It was like
Yeah,
in between the sled.
Because he looking at the dude in front of him like, all right, bro.
He crunched him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that probably would have broke anybody's back. That looked painful.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yep, I'm on.
I got my phone off too.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And you can speak in right to the mic.
Am I close enough?
You might be able to scoot up a little bit more.
Okay.
Right there. Yeah. All right. The name of the podcast is called, I'll send you all the information, it's the Summer Podcast. The reason why we call it the summer, because regardless whether it's in the fall or the winter, all roads lead back to the summer. You know, that's when it's important for them. That's when they look forward to seeing you more than anything.
Right.
More likely. So that's why we call it. This majority is totally based upon some basketball, primarily summer basketball, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, and we can get into the pros and cons. You know, even the guys that kind of walk around hiding out, trying to do different things behind everybody's back while they're in there, and all that's relevant. Because I've been on the boys' side for 20 years now. So I kind of,
You know what about, yeah, you know exactly what's going on.
Absolutely.
And it's starting to, I think, get that way in the girls.
Oh, jeez.
And it's really just to give, to echo Martin's points, just to give people, listeners, insight.
That's what it's about, giving them insight. Because if they don't know you before they get a chance to see you, or most of the time like this, by the time they get a chance to finally know you, it's too late.
Right.
Most of the time. So you can kind of lay down some foundations about what to expect, what to look for, what not, you know what I mean?
And then also, too, one last thing for you, it's, I'm sure you and Jim, like you said, you travel a ton. So when people see you in the gym, they never get a chance to really hold a 30, 40-minute conversation with you to kind of know your background, know you had Big O, you know, just more personable as well, just trying to get to know you as a evaluator and a person in the business. So again, and that's it's weird. We're in the gym all the time, but very rarely do you get a chance to speak to anybody.
Yep.
You know, for
it's too quick.
yeah, you're in and out. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Marlon,
We ready? Let's see.
Am I in that camera?
yeah, we recorded as well. We all feel that sometimes it's more humorous when you watch the video and you see the reactions and things of that
Yeah,
nature.
I'm cool with that.
So we kind of hit it on both fronts.
It's the summer at John Lucas's top 160 for girls. And the camp has just concluded.
I know it's been a long 2 days, especially day one. Day one is usually the treacherous.
The introduction, especially if you hadn't been around before, it kind of gives them all a reality check on who they are right away.
Oh man, I was I think it was yesterday when guys first kicked it off. You know, I seen girls in the volleyball pit in the sand carrying 4x4s running through the parking lot, pulling tires, and they had a rude awakening. That was early in the morning.
No doubt.
Initially, get your uniform, we going to the parking lot.
Shell shock right off the top.
Yeah.
Shell shock right off the top. Got a good guy in with us today, known nationally,
Big time.
well respected, probably the most sought after publication and guy in girls basketball from the Collegiate Girls Basketball Report, Mr. Dan Olson.
How you doing, sir?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
So Dan, quickly, first off, not quickly, but first off, just kind of tell us how long you've been in the game so far. I know that you were a head coach at one point as well, and not only were you a head coach, but you basically started the program from nil to zero.
Yeah, I did that twice, actually. Started on the men's side as a JUCO assistant. Was thrown to the wolves when I was a college freshman, college sophomore. Kind of learned the ropes. And as they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I got the opportunity, and I ran with it. And not knowing then what I know now, where it would lead me. And as I moved on from the guys' side, kind of fell into the lap of the girls' side by getting an opportunity at my alma mater, Barry University in Miami, Florida, a Division II program. They wanted to start women's basketball, and I was reluctant to do it.
Really?
And yeah, I was kind of sold on the guys, you know, and for me to get into the girls' side, I did. I reluctantly did it. In about 2 weeks into it, you know, light went off in my head, and it said, look, I can outwork people. I can have a real passion for this. And back then, you could outwork people. Now it's a little bit different. It's obviously picked up the pace. But so I did. I started the program at Barry University. Lasted there for 3 years. Moved on, and then I started another one at Lynn University in Boca Raton, about 45 minutes north of Miami, and was successful as well there for 3 years. So, yeah, I spent overall 18 years on the college side.
No regrets.
No regrets. It was a great opportunity. Gave me free education,
Yes.
which is huge. Networked me. Got to meet some really cool people over the long haul. And as you know, in this business that I'm presently in, it's the same thing. It's a network of people. You learn every day, and you see different things every day, and that's what keeps me coming back.
Now, you mentioned being reluctant to taking that job initially, right? And what was that from? I mean, obviously, boys are jumping and flying around and dunking, and the girls playing below the rim. Was that part of the reluctancy?
No, I think it was just the fact that I was so into the guys and feeling like I had an opportunity then to get myself with both feet in the water as a head coach on the men's side at a fairly young age. When it didn't happen, having previously only watched very few women's games at all. You're talking the late 80s here,
Right.
And the acceptance then to where it is now was minuscule. So that's what kind of gave me the reservation of not wanting to do it. But hey, when you become a head coach and you can call your own shots, and then you can go out and recruit the players that you want to recruit.
Right.
Oh, I went crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that light bulb moment that you had?
Yeah, it was. And it's all about you have to get players, and you can go get good players. They make you become a really good coach if you got good players sometimes now.
Yeah, we know that.
That's true to this day.
And so I hit the transfer market pretty hard, and I hit the JUCO market real hard. And that gave me some instantaneous results. And that was kind of my moniker that I kind of lived with throughout those years as a coach in women's basketball. And it proved successful for me.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it just hit me right off the head when you said it only took you 2 weeks to say, you know what? Hey, boom.
Yeah.
Usually it just seems like you'd be like, man, look, it probably take a couple
Slow
months.
drag. Right.
How was your relationships right away when you got into the girls' side? Like, did you were they already there? Or what?
Oh no,
What
not
you
at
have
all.
to do?
I had to start from ground zero. And what I did do was I coached the girls like the guys, and I think that's what girls like. They want that somewhat of an alpha personality. And the rules and the way things went and the offensive, defensive schemes stayed the same. But yeah, I had to network. I had to build my recruiting base from zero. But I seemed to find the right people to call at the right times. It just kind of worked out, And
Timing is everything.
yeah.
And did you just stay? Would you start out in the southern region over there, and then you just kind of expand it out, or did you just put dots all over the map? And
I did. I stayed in the South for the most part. Most of the players that I had over the long haul were from the state of Florida, but then I'd go out of state every once in a while and find a home run hitter for me. Yeah, and that's what proved successful for me.
That's great, because now it's like you're like the name. It's like I know that you're a modest guy, especially being from New York, you know.
Yeah, look at that.
But your name like resonates all around the country, and it's like you've built up the credibility that high school coaches and college coaches, it's like they ring your phone when they need to know something about a prospect immediately.
Yeah.
Like, what brought you to that level, and you know, your steps to get there? Because you're probably the most credible guy in the country, basically, in regards to girls basketball.
Well, I appreciate that, and I think the fact of my work ethic that has been there from day one of whatever I've done has been the driving force for me of being successful. I'm pretty relentless, and
Relentless.
I think that, you know, and I've got a love for the game, obviously, and it's for the kids. It's not about me. It's not about the coaches. It's not about it's about the coaches who want to get good players. Sure, that's
Right.
the name of the game for them. But the opportunity to help the girls along the way, that's pretty priceless, I think. You know, and giving them an opportunity, because you're changing somebody's life here. I mean, you're giving them an opportunity by getting their name on the national limelight that deserve to have it out there, and providing them an opportunity for a college education. I mean, it's a life-changing experience.
Let's talk about work ethic, right? Because that's a term that's kind of thrown out. It's kind of more of a cliche term. What did you do? Were you calling? Were you beating the pavement? Like, what did you actually do to get to this point?
Well, from the college coaching perspective, I worked the phones hard. Identified the right kids, met the right people, and really networked myself in that respect. And it only takes one. And I lucked up, got myself a good point guard. Lucked up, got myself a good forward, and then built around that. In the business that I'm in now as a national scouting service, it's relentless number of hours
Right.
that you spend from 8 in the morning until midnight or past that on a regular basis, week after week after week, and there's no day off.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that consistency has to stay with what you're doing and evaluating and watching players play, not just once, but the numerous times you see them, and and depicting their ability level and realizing where they fall. I think I do a pretty good job at that.
That right there leads to the next point. Like, Dan, you know, like I said, Mo always asks this question. I want him to ask it, and then when he asks it, I'm going to take it to the next part. But I love what he says, because it's kind of going to lead us into the next question that we're going to ask you. But Mo's going to ask.
Is that the one about
15?
Yeah, it's great, you know, knowing it's my first time meeting you. Obviously, I'm not as familiar with the girls' side as I would like to be. So this is all, you know, amateur, novice for me. But I'm very intrigued by it. But besides what you've done as a profession, I'm always more curious to know about the person, right? And so before we started rolling, you said you were from New York. So what was Dan like when you were 15? Were you a heavy sports guy? Were you going to the Yankees games all the time? You know, were you a good student? Like, what were you like as a youngster?
I was an unmotivated student.
Okay.
Didn't really like school. Okay. All right. Ate, slept, drank basketball, played hoops all the time.
Outdoors.
Outdoors.
Yes.
Played in the winter outdoors. Okay, that's how much of a junkie I was. And it really wasn't that many places you could go. And I'm from upstate New York, where you're getting snow, like on top of snow on top of snow.
Right.
So you're not getting a lot of good weather during the
Right.
you know, into those summer months. It's a shortened time, you know.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, it was the Yankee games at night on TV, you know, I'd watch a lot of, and watching hoops and playing hoops and envisioning myself thinking that I could actually play. But I'll tell you what, I seem to have like somewhat of a photographic memory, I think,
Okay.
when it comes to stuff. I was a big basketball, like ACC basketball guy. I was a big Carolina guy, Wake and NC State. And I think that's maybe had some sort of a process in my mind of what I did back when I was a kid. Because I could rattle off stuff back there and back when John Lucas played at Maryland and was coached by Lefty Drizel, and you know who he played with and so on and so forth. And I could remember all of that stuff, and it probably has led to what I do now.
That's not probably. That's accurate.
And that's exactly where we were leading. You know, it's like, you know, where did your ability to make the assessments and to be able to understand not just boys but even girls, because there's kind of a transition right there. Where did that come from, and how are you, you know, your credibility? You've instantly told us, look, you've been around the game for years. And regardless of, you know, what level you play at, when you're around it and you've seen the best and around it, you know what it takes and how
it looks
it's
like.
a lot easier to project somebody to where they go. So that kind of helped to answer the question in itself. But so when people look at what you're doing, it's instant credibility, basically. You know, it's instant credibility, and that to me, that's nothing more than that, because you've got people that, I'm sure as you've seen before, have tried to do what you do, and they might be doing it for various other reasons instead of just out of the passion. And, you know quite a few of those. And what do you think about that type of situation?
Well, it's becoming more prevalent now in the women's game than it has ever been before. And let's face it, on the guys' side, it's quite a bit. But there's a lot of wannabe guys that are out there trying to make a fast buck on these girls. Parents, you need to make sure that you're making the right decision, not only with the travel team that you're with, the people that are coaching your travel team, how much are they teaching your daughter. But the same thing can be said with their high school programs, you know, the educational aspect of where they're going, but the quality of competition and teaching methods that we're going through to make them better players. But the dollars part of it, when you're in the summer months and in the spring leading up to summer, you can go broke if you're not careful. So you don't need to go broke. You just need to make sure you go to the right things.
Wow, that's no need to go broke. Just make sure you pick the right events to go to. It's almost like you said, even the team. You know, Coach Lucas says, hey, you need to monitor who coaches your child, who trains your child. When you go to the store to buy a new pair of shoes, don't you try the shoes on first? The same thing. Don't just spend your money on anybody.
Ask questions.
Ask the questions.
That's huge. Especially parents that are naive in the process. I mean, this is your daughter that we're talking about. This is her opportunity to make a mark in the world, to get a great education through basketball. And if she's got that ability to do it and get a free education and have a great time in the process, you need to make sure you get the right place to go and do your homework and take the time. It's invaluable, just like you said. You got to make sure you pick the right pair of shoes to wear, and you got to pick the right school too.
And sometimes it's hard because, you know, oftentimes I have 3 children, and you know, who's to say they'll all play sports, right? So this could be a parent's first and only time they'll go through the process. And if they don't know the right questions to ask, what would be something that you would give to most parents and say, hey, here are 3 questions, or here's something you need to really focus on when you're going through this process? What would it be? Because there are parents out there that are clueless.
Yes. Well, first and foremost, for those parents that are starting out from ground zero and they don't know, the worst thing that they could do is not ask questions. If they think it's a dumb question, they're wrong, because there are so many questions to ask and be made aware of, from not only the basketball part of it, but from the educational part of it, of how to be qualified to even be a student athlete in a college. You know, those are questions that are needing to be asked that they may not know. But from the basketball side of things, I mean, that, like I had just alluded to, knowing if you're into it on the travel circuit side, of picking the right coach, and what's their credibility, how have they run their program in the past, you know, how do they fit in the big scheme of things of where they send their players. Those are important questions that need to be known. And then how much they teach. Is it roll the ball out time when they
Right.
practice? Or are we really teaching these kids better fundamentals? And that's what's lacking, I think, in the game today for women's basketball. Is the lack of fundamentals that are being taught across the board. Not only just shooting the ball, but how to come off the screen, how to pass the ball, how to feed the post, how to defend, how to do all those things, and have basketball knowledge, your IQ of the game is somewhat lacking.
Do you think there's a reason why it seems to be more men that coach women nowadays than women that coach women?
That's a good question, and I've asked that often. There aren't enough women coaching travel ball comparative to even high school.
Mm-hmm.
There's far more to coach high school. It seems to be a male-dominated part of that sport.
Right.
Now, I think that there's a percentage of these girls that are out there that want to be coached by men,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily is it always the case. I mean, it's purely the individual and that rapport that they develop, whether it be a male or a female, that will make that light go off in the brain of that girl for her to perform and be in a happy environment.
Is there something like, for example, I know that you do the top 100 rankings. You do top 100, basically people love your rankings. Is there some times where you get some feedback from some parents to be like, look here, come on,
Of course.
Mr. Olson, come on, Dan. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, on a regular basis.
Of course.
and now the question, is it always something like mine, like they're mad that they're like number 12 instead of like number 10? And like, I mean, how does that go? Where's it usually stimulate come from?
Yeah, there is a percentage of feedback that I get. It may be direct from a parent where I know who they are, but then it's anonymous as well. That are complaining about where a player is ranked. And look, this is a subjective thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I'm not the end all of this. It's what my opinion is, and when I see them play. Girls basketball, if I watched the #1 player in America every day, I could really probably say to myself, maybe she isn't the #1 player because she's going to have faults, she's going to have a day off.
Absolutely.
And you overanalyze that player. So, but all in all, to be in a generalistic term, the top 100 prospects in the upcoming class of 2017, there's probably 150 kids that are out there that could fall into that category.
Right.
But it's when I see them. It's when I see them and what they do that will determine whether or not they're in that.
Right.
It's not my fault that they're going to be lazy the time I watch them.
Right.
And those kids need to know that they need to perform when they come, and they do when they come to John Lucas, they perform.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other times when they just take a day off.
And that's the thing that's like you said about the rankings is there's going to be days where a player doesn't play well, but you'll have a parent come to you and say, well, we were running late,
Yeah.
and she didn't get a chance to warm up, and she didn't eat her favorite bowl of cereal this morning. It's going to be a bunch of excuses.
Oh, yeah.
And my thing with that is, as a player, you should be prepared to play every single time. Because what I've noticed on especially on the boys' side is that the level of intensity is raised when coaches are out there watching.
Yeah.
So then when they're not there, I'm all about being consistent. So when they're not there, now you're taking plays off and things of that nature. Well, just because Coach K isn't there, someone else is still watching you.
Exactly.
And you never know who's watching, who has Coach K's ear, whoever the person may be.
Right.
So it's important for players to always, at least put your best foot forward, no matter who's in the building, because you just never know who anyone is.
Yep, same thing happens on the women's side. The late Pat Summit, she would walk in the gym and
Intensities.
light would go on. But she wasn't in the gym prior to that point. Well, it might have been a lackadaisical effort somewhat, you know. And the same thing can be said for some of these other coaches that are coaching today, you know, from Coach Oriema to, you know, Kim Mulkey and so on. When they walk in the gym, oh, there's a certain amount of attention that gets taken right away. And it should be that way the entire time, but it's not. It's not a perfect world.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've earned the part where that light goes on when you walk in the gym now, too.
I don't know about that, but I hope that they do. Because I really want to see them perform and play at a high level of intensity. And it makes my job a lot easier, and it certainly helps their game.
How do you keep reevaluating yourself? For example, do you have a list of like the girls that you had the last 4 or 5 years ago and kind of find out where they are today to see if you were in line with kind of, you know what I mean? How do you keep you reevaluating yourself?
Yeah, I refer back sometimes in past classes now that are like, say, 5 years old, where you know where I can see where they draft and see how accurate I was in the draft. And I'm usually about 60 to 70% accurate on that draft. Let's say of the top 10 or 20 prospects from high school and where they fall in the draft. Sometimes these kids don't fall into the same draft category because of maybe a red shirt or an injury, something of that sort. But for the most part, it's somewhere around there, 6 and 10, 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10.
That's a hell of a ratio. That's a high ratio.
Yeah.
So I definitely get a chance to see why people respect what you're talking about now. I mean, coaches, who hits you sometimes as far as like, you know, because there's so many times where a coach will sell a player to a school in regards to misleading and telling them that they're hyping them up, and then the kid gets there and the coach is excited to tell somebody, I got him with Gino or I got him with Kim, you know what I mean? And they don't pan out, you know, the girls are, so do a lot of coaches call you in regards to that, or how often do you see that happen?
Yeah, doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough where I get responses from coaches asking me about a certain player where they've gotten feedback from whether it be the club coach or the high school coach or the parent, and they want to reaffirm, and that's what I'm about, you know, I'm reaffirming what they are giving information of, and I'll just tell them black and white, you know, yes or no, you know, not good enough or good enough or worth further inquiry or whatever. So, but it happens quite a bit.
Is there something specific in general when you first walk into a gym and you see a player? Is there like for boys, people if a kid came down and he just jumped and just went out the gym, it just everybody they lit for the rest. He might not do nothing for the rest of the damn game, but. For girls, is there, and it's no disrespect to them because obviously most of them aren't jumping out the gym, but what is it that you look for when you walk into the gym to sit back and say, you know what, oh, she's a player, she can get it?
The first thing that I'm going to look for when I walk in the gym is size, because there's been such a demand for a quality post player, and it's a number that's relatively dwindled over the course of time. There's not good enough true post players out there, and as John Lucas has alluded to, the game has kind of stretched itself out to the 3-point line, where a lot of people are just standing out there and knocking down threes. Well, there's not a true back-to-the-back player, back-to-the-basket player anymore, and it may evolve back to that point, you know. But I think these kids are trying to get more skilled in various positions, so I try to look for those kids that are, number one, have size. Secondly, I want to see a kid that's able to handle the ball, not turn it over, and consistently hit a jump shot. If I can find those kids like that do that on a regular basis, now they're separating themselves from the rest of the crowd. I think, and coaches may really look at this more so than I do to begin with, coaches want kids that are going to play hard. And play with a high intensity, that motor, and if they can find those kids, they can develop them and get them a better jump shot and so on and so forth. They're going to evolve as a player, but boy, you can't find kids sometimes that can play with a high intensity level, and it's unfortunate. And they're lazy, and so you want to find those kids that play with a high effort.
Does having poor attitude go into any
Absolutely.
evaluation?
Absolutely. If you know they don't want to be there, you can tell.
Right.
And the efforts that they put forth toward that coach, throughout their teammates, the way they look when they walk in, and if they're not ready to play, I mean, I can automatically, okay, let's see where this goes, you know, and see what happens. Once in a while, I get fooled. Now there'll be a kid that comes in that doesn't look like she wants to be there, but the light goes on and it's on. It's game time.
Game time. Hit
But
that
then,
switch.
but then other times it's just like, you know, they're real lackadaisical. Yeah, that drives me nuts. Yeah.
Are there any certain programs that, whether you wouldn't, I mean, we don't have to mention the programs, but are there certain programs, collegiate programs, that you look at and you say, you know what, they got this girl, and when she was there, when she got there, she was barely doing this, but now I can see how they have developed and progressed her into being, and it speaks more to the college. And does it happen the same way with the girls, as far as down there? Some girls that was there, they went there a certain way, and hell, 2 years later, they're the same way.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Here's one that I can come off the top of my head that I think everybody would know, especially obviously being from the state of Texas. Mariah Jefferson. Mariah was a phenomenal defender in high school and travel ball. She was exciting to watch, just like she is now. Didn't have a great jump shot. She could make them, but not as consistent. Well, she goes to Connecticut. The rest is history. Now she's playing in the WNBA and being a major factor.
Right.
Not only still doing the disruptiveness that she does from a defensive standpoint, but she can knock down shots. And she really elevated her game. She'd become a true professional. So there's one example of a player from here in East Texas that really got it done, and where a lot of young girls, not only here in Texas, but everywhere around the country, can kind of say, wow, I want to emulate a Mariah Jefferson, because she's just as tall as I am, and I'm maybe as quick as she is, which is tough to find, but I want to be like her, you know. Right. So I think that's really great. But then there's countless others that kind of flatten out, that don't fully develop into a great college player like you would hope that they would have. There's too many to name, you know, that have gone through. And I don't think it's necessarily thrown back on that college program as much as it is that player's got to show that form of commitment.
Right.
And want to be there and want to contribute and want to get better. And there's certain programs that are out there that force their hand.
Wow,
You
that's a
know,
good
that
point.
make that happen, you know. And those programs that are out there doing that, they rise to the forefront of the college game.
And to your point, I mean, oftentimes you'll have girls that graduate high school, go to college, play a year or two, and stop playing. Just give up on the game. You're shaking your head, it's like you must know a lot of...
Well, this is a whole other avenue that we can get into, which has become really evident now in college women's basketball, and I'm sure it's the same way on the guys' side, is the transfer market. There's hundreds of kids that transfer every year. Well, why are they transferring? Is it because they're not playing and they're unhappy with their playing time? Is it because they gotten over-recruited? Is it because they were given bad information and they were put there and people didn't do their homework to find out if the kid could really play? There's a lot of factors that go in, but it's become more and more
What's
random.
that number like on the girls' side? I think the boys' side is averaging 700 plus over the past few years. What's that number like on the girls' side?
It's at least 300.
Wow.
Now, I do a transfer list on my website, on my company website, and I probably have averaged over the last 5 years at least 300 players. Now, that's for the ones that I hear about.
Right.
There's got to be probably another couple hundred that you don't even know about
Right.
that don't get publicized. And there's a lot of schools that don't really want to publicize that info because they feel like it's a bad move on them. You have to see that that's happening, but it's happening everywhere.
What would you say that you started seeing that glaring? Because obviously kids transfer, all the time, right? But when did you start to see that glaring, like, oh man,
The number to rise.
went from 10 to 150 now. It's
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. I started my list in 2008,
okay.
and I did it on an email, and it got real popular real fast. So I put it on my website. But I think it really grew from like 2008, where it kind of doubled. From 8 to like 10, 2010. So, and now it's been kind of consistent there from about that 300 mark every year.
And was there any, in between that 2008 to 2010 year, was there anything that had transpired in between there? Was it a new rule passed down? Did anything, did summer ball for girls start getting more popular then? Or, you know what I mean? What kind of, usually there's a action.
A reason why, yeah. I think girls basketball has become really popular, okay? In the early 2000s, it exploded, right? It's become more and more popular here now, in recent years, especially with, you've got Instagram, you've got Twitter, you've got the internet, you've got all of these social media things that are grabbing at these kids and the hype of these kids. And I think that that's probably contributed to it in some capacity. But on a reverse scale, there's I don't know if there's as many kids overall playing women's basketball, girls basketball in the United States overall as there used to be, because you've got other sports. You've got volleyball, you've got women, you've got lacrosse now,
Right.
and you've got all these other outside influences going on that weren't going on 15 years ago, like the internet and Twitter and all that stuff. And I think that's got a contributing factor to the level of ability some of these kids may show, is because they're not spending enough time working on their game as they once might have been, because they're being distracted. And I think that there's some truth to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I graduated out of high school in 1997. All we had was Super Nintendo, maybe a Sega Genesis, right? And so, I couldn't imagine being a high school student with all of this stuff.
Yeah,
I probably wouldn't have got no homework done.
it's got to be tough for these kids, I would think. And
it's not going to stop either. Technology is continuing to evolve.
They've got to be more focused now than ever before if they're going to really succeed as a good basketball player and keep their priorities in line.
Yeah, they taking two wind sprints, and they run over to check their text messages.
Yeah.
Check their phone.
Yeah,
right.
Call
I got mentions.
Like for real? Like, can you not now? Like, that's crazy. I mean, it happens like that.
Now I know earlier you talked about your travel schedule and how often you travel, and so if you could name, I would say, 3 to 5 markets in the country where girls basketball is like, if you want to talk about girls basketball, you need to be in these cities, these states. What would it be?
Perennially, Ohio
Okay.
and Indiana have been pretty strong. Ohio was really strong like back in 2008. Then it had a little bit of a dip. Now it's starting to come back.
Okay.
Of course, you've got the DMV area.
Okay.
You're pulling from a number of states there, but that's a hotbed for girls basketball.
Okay.
And first and foremost, which has been a leader, and I don't want to leave California out. California's a huge state, got a ton of talent. So you've got some West Coast kids that are really talented players. But East Texas has been so dominant and has continued to become dominant for years. I don't know what's going on over here, but any side of the state of Texas, anywhere you go, you're going to find basketball players. And that's no disrespect to West Texas or Central Texas, because there's players there too. But something's going on over here, and they're really doing it right. And they teach the kids. They've got great basketball high school teams. You know, Duncan High School has been a dominant force, and they ain't going away. They're still around.
They got 7 gyms in one high school facility.
And the main court looks like some college campus.
Yeah. And you heard we asked quite a few girls. You said Mariah Jefferson's from Dallas, and you think Brianna Turner from at Notre Dame now. She was off McDonald's. You had Kelsey Bone, Brittany Griner. So we've had our fair share, you know. So Texas is pretty strong.
And the names just keep going on and on and on.
Right.
I mean, I could sit here and run off, if I had time, 50 names of kids that are impact Division I players that have played, that have become stars in college, that are from Texas, you know, and probably more East Texas.
Right.
You know, it's crazy.
Right.
But they're doing it the right way, and they've got a good formula going here, and I think other states need to adopt what they're doing. But I think it boils down to money. You know, they really fund their programs really well here in Texas. Other states need to take notice if that's what they want to do to really provide an opportunity for their young kids today, not only girls but the guys as well, and that would be fantastic.
I know on the boys' side, it's like off the chain with the number of teams that there are. Like boys have, you know, Boo Williams will talk about it. It's like 7-Eleven. You got one on every corner, you know. And is it the same way with girls?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Kind of it started to evolve into that?
Yeah.
This is what I find so amazing about this conversation is that, you know, just being not knowledgeable, right? I always assumed that it was just different on the girls' side. It's the same damn problems.
Yeah, it's evolving just like the guys. There's a certain amount of dirtiness now to the girls' game that there is toward the guys' game.
Right.
And we know what we're talking about, you know, and yeah, there's multiple teams. There's mom and dad want to coach their daughter or their son. You know, you've got one program that's got 40 teams or 70 teams underneath it.
And everybody's paying.
Yeah, I mean, it's big money now.
They're looking to be ranked in the 5th grade. Now that's a big problem on the boys' side too. Is the rankings at a young age? Does that happen? Is that wanted from the parents?
Certain degree on the girls' side.
Okay.
Now I'll rank kids through the 2020 class currently.
So you started in high school. You started in 8th grade or 9th grade?
8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've had people that have approached me about their daughter being in 5th grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, you know, that want to know where they're ranked. And I'm like,
Nobody cares.
come on, it ain't happening.
Don't worry
about
cares about your 5th grade.
So you stay grounded for that for a long time, because some people have, obviously, you know, some people, hey, you know what, there's a market for that.
There's a market for that.
So let me dip into it. So you stay grounded, stay consistent on what you're doing.
Correct.
Wow, you know.
I'm just not I just don't think people really care about, you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. I mean, not only will your game change, you know, your body may change. You know, you may grow, you may not grow, you may not get any better. It's just so many different dynamics that I think that focus and honing in on that middle school, 5th, 6th grade is just like, it's a waste of time. Just have fun.
Exactly.
Just play.
Enjoy your childhood.
Enjoy your childhood.
Have fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you can turn into not wanting to play at all. You can go into lacrosse. You can go into another sport. I mean, you know, there's a lot of different factors that are going on there in a young girl's life at that age that may sour them and not want them to play.
Absolutely.
You know, so just let them have fun, enjoy their environment that they're in and their young childhood that they're going through. And you'll know if they're going to really be a player and want to really involve themselves and step up to the plate and want to really get into this thing full bore, you know.
Are girls starting to specialize in one sport only now?
That becoming a factor?
Yeah, I think they are. You know, beforehand, you'd see a lot of these kids, and it really kind of falls back on where they go to school. If they're in a small school environment, they're getting pulled into softball,
Yeah,
volleyball, they're doing all that
everything.
stuff
Right.
because they're kind of expected to.
Needed.
But when they're in a bigger high school environment, and I think that the parents realize, hey, wait a minute, we may have something here that they're pretty good at, then I think, yeah, now we're into this,
Yeah.
this one sport thing.
And me personally, I'm actually okay with that in high school. But when you're young, you're in the 4th and 5th and 6th grade, you know, you should play volleyball, you should play soccer. Because I think what happens is, we never touched on this earlier, we were talking to Boo Williams, is for whatever reason, girls tend to have either knee problems, and I think that it's probably based on you kind of overworking that same muscle group over and over and over and over again. So you're not necessarily developing other parts of your body by playing other sports. So if you ran track, you're building something, I'm not sure what, but you're building something else. If you're playing volleyball, you're building some other type of muscle. But if you're just playing basketball, and to your point, if I'm playing basketball for 5 straight years and never playing anything else, and I'm watching my girlfriends who are doing other things, I'm like, damn, I wish I could play volleyball, but mom and dad just driving this basketball down my throat every chance they get.
Yeah.
And the kid tend to lose interest. And you know, it's unfortunate because, like you mentioned earlier, when you were young, you played basketball all the time.
Yeah.
It wasn't because mom said, go out there and work on your game. You know, you just
You
want to
love
go.
doing it. Right.
Exactly. So I think that a lot of kids on both the boys and the girls side doesn't have that level of, you know, just fun atmosphere. It's kind of become more business-like. I think too soon for some of these kids.
It sure has.
And then we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you to share with everyone your website and your maybe you have a Twitter
I sure
account
do.
that they can follow. I think that's going to help a lot of people because more than likely a lot of people should want to log on to your website, look at find out who you are and see how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. My website, girlsbasketballreport.com. Now that's a subscription site that college coaches subscribe to, but you can reach me through that site. My Twitter is the letters CGBR and the number 27. So Collegiate Girls Basketball Report and the number 27.
Why 27?
Because the Yankees have 27 rings.
See, I knew it was a reason behind it.
You know that was the question right there.
I knew it
27.
was a reason.
Yankees have 27 rings. How many do the Mets have?
Oh, heck, who cares?
Who cares?
One.
How often do you travel throughout the fall, the winter, the spring, and then the summer? Is it consistently the same, or does it change depending on the time of year it is?
No, it's pretty much the same thing every week. I have 1, maybe 2 weeks of the year that I'm off, that there's not an event that I'll go to. So, yeah, 50 to 51 weeks a year.
God.
So it never was like that before. It was, pretty much you had the July, which was your whole month, and then you might have something in September, and then I do junior college women's basketball as well through the month of October. That carries on through the year then because they have their national tournament in March. But now it's so you had times off. Now you don't. You just go every week for the most part.
Now, I'm sure everyone is calling you and pulling you in every direction, wanting you to come to their event, wanting you to come here. And you want to go here, so it's at some point in time you have to look and say, well, wow, I need to see 5 of those girls going to be over there, but 8 of them are going to be over here. It's like, which event do I go to? So it can be tough when you do. You feel like at some point in time, summer basketball needs to be regulated in some way or form? Like, for example, like boys basketball, USA Basketball, now you've got to register through USA Basketball to be the coach on the sidelines now. For the next year's supposed to be the first year. So what do you think? Is it fine where it's at right now? Do you think would it help you from a recruiting and scouting perspective if it was regulated a little bit, where everybody couldn't just throw a tournament when they wanted to?
Geez, that's a good question. Now, I'm all about that being regulated. As far as the coaches being, regulated and that sort of thing, who's on the sideline and who's not.
Right.
I think there needs to be a definitive criteria for that.
Okay.
Because there's some people out there that just don't need to be out there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, they just don't need to be there. And they've got an agenda as to why they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always a good one. But I think whether you regulate it or not regulate it, there's always going to be events in the dead period that are going to be out there that people will want to go to. Whether it be in a regional capacity because it's easy for them to get to, it's cost effective. Once you get into the actual recruiting cycle of events that coaches can attend, I'd love to see less events that are organized, that the NCAA provides more of a definitive criteria, especially for a coach's packet that's got more of an organized aspect to it, so that you're not guessing and knowing. Because parents, the one thing you may not realize, parents, that the money that you're spending for your daughter to be sitting on the sidelines in July, there's a percentage of those coaches that are out there, and myself included, that don't know who your daughter is. That you're sitting on that bench, you're playing, you're in that uniform, but your number is wrong. Your information's not in that book,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no way that we're able to find that out because some of these coaches want to provide their information and their number to provide because it's an ego trip for them. And you're losing out. You're spending money. You're giving it to that travel coach, and your kid's not getting a scholarship.
I've seen that several times in the coach's packet where it's the same email address for every player.
Same address, same phone number.
Address.
And the NCAA needs to do a better job at regulating that because it still happens. And it's deterring the opportunity of that girl to play. She thinks she's doing the right thing by being there, and nobody knows. But I try to find that stuff out. I try to convey that to my subscribers that buy my service of who she is, especially if she's a player. I
Right.
want to know who she is. And but it still happens all the time.
We were talking to someone earlier, and they were talking about the coaching packets. They're, I guess, becoming too expensive.
Correct.
Is that, obviously they're probably not going to change price point on it, but has that become a problem over the past couple of years, or it's for a
Yeah,
while
it's
now?
continued to become a bad issue with college coaches. I understand the position that these event operators have, where they're in a free market society and they want to make as much money as they can, and that's their right to do so. But I think that there's a line in the sand that needs to be drawn here, where the greed element is taken out of it, where
Right.
college coaches are going to only stand for so much, and then enough is enough. And I know that there's been a recent stand from college coaches about boycotting now in the fall reviewing period. And to each their own. If they feel that they can go ahead and do that, then they should. And I don't know if it's going to help the major schools that are out there, the big BCS programs that have a lot of money in their budgets. They're only recruiting a certain number of kids.
Anyway, right.
And they may not feel that it's advantageous to be out or not.
Right. Are they more pissed because of the price point, or that the information isn't as accurate as they would hope it to be?
It's not the information part of it.
Okay.
They're more upset with the actual cost of it.
Gotcha.
And it just seems that the smaller market programs that are out there that don't have a major budget,
The mid-majors and low-majors.
that are ones that really get affected because they have to recruit more kids. They don't have the money to be flying here, there, and everywhere, and they're still being held hostage, so to speak, on this amount of money. And those are the I think those are the programs in the conferences that really need to step up to this. If they're going to make a stand and try to make change for this to happen, and if they don't, then it's going to continue on. The men did it a few years ago, and they stood as one, and they changed it. And the women, I don't know if they'll do it.
Right.
They need to do it, I think, because it's the right thing to do. These guys that are running these events, they're making money, they're making enough money. And I don't know the people that are really running the events that are the larger events, really it's not going to affect them that much, I don't think, especially in the fall.
Right.
But the smaller guys that are out there trying to do these events, it probably is going to affect them pretty hard. Yeah.
Well, as we get ready to come to a conclusion here, close, is there anything that you want to share, or anything like maybe to obviously some parents that are listening right now and they haven't met you before, for some parents that haven't met you before, even for some that do know who you are, but there has to be a roadmap to this. And
Right.
usually there isn't one. So obviously sharing your address, your Twitter account will help them, but from a one-on-one perspective, you can communicate with them and talk to them, the new people who are going to be coming into the 8th grade and 9th grade soon. What do you have to say to them?
Realize what you're getting into, have an open mind, go into this thing with both feet, and let your daughter enjoy the experience, but ask the questions that you may not think need to be asked. Ask those questions, because those may become those invaluable things that you need to take with you for years to come that will help mold your daughter, and that will help you kind of navigate your way through this whole process. And again, if I'm able to help in any capacity, you can obviously reach me through Twitter or through my website, and I'll be happy to give you feedback through that. And I'll charge for that stuff. You don't need to be charged for asking for information about stuff like that.
Right. The right information.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if I can say one thing too, all the events that I attend, individual events, team events that I go to, the John Lucas 160 that has been created here over the last few years is the one event that I fail to never want to miss. This is it. I mean, and if you're an aspiring young female basketball player anywhere in the country, or even for that matter out of the country, and you can hear this and read this and see this, and you think that you stack up with the nation's best players, you're fooling yourself if you're going to go somewhere else and do it, because
Right.
you're not. You're getting false information. Coming here gives you that opportunity to see where you stack up against the rest of the big dogs that are out there, because that's what happened today, and it'll happen and continue to happen. So I'm just thankful, grateful that John gives me the opportunity to come here and get a chance to evaluate the girls, and I'm a big advocate of what he does.
Appreciate that, and I'm sure all the parents listen up, because most times we make the wrong decisions because we don't have all the proper information.
Correct.
And you just got the information from Dan Olson on how to get in contact with him so that you can get the right information, hopefully before the mistakes occur. And then we'll definitely see you next year at the John Lucas Top 160. Dan, we appreciate all the time. Thanks for sharing, and hopefully we'll see you again, but for sure in the summer.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That was cool.
That was good, guys.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man.
27 rings.
Time well spent.
I was waiting. He say, gee, girls basketball.